All right, Charles, you are the toughest grader of movies that's ever lived.
Whoa.
Get out of here. It's a bit. We know that's your thing. I saw your face leaving this movie, and I saw the wonder, the fantastical nature of the boyishness that jumped out.
Yes.
There was like a little glitter on your shoulder.
Spice Melange.
Little daddy.
Spice Malone.
What did you think about Dune 2?
All right, let's set the scene. You know what I'm saying? Like, magical experience, magical night. You know what I'm saying? 3 black men, Chris Ryan, all in the same row, seated. From the moment the movie starts, it was like something was unlocked. I walked out of the theater being like, this might have been one of the greatest movie-going experiences for a sci-fi movie I've seen in my lifetime.
Fantastic.
It was, I don't know, like Denny not only did something that I think is going to go down as a masterwork when we view it all together, I think this might be the moment when we point to like a Timothy Chalamet and Austin Butler, Florence Pugh, Zendaya, and be like, oh no, that was a moment. Like, we complain about how we don't have Hollywood stars anymore. We complain about how these movies don't have the same magic. They don't feel like they did back in the day. And watching Dune 2, I was like, oh, we can still do this. We can still make movies that transport us, that surprise us, that punch us in the gut, that make us think, that are ambitious. What Denny was able to pull off in this movie, like, fucking hats off to him. I was like, fucking chills. What about you, Van?
So, everything that you said, and I think there is a feeling of newness and a feeling of familiarity that makes the film-going experience very unique. The newness is that this world, as many sci-fi worlds as we've seen and as many sci-fi movies as we've watched, this world feels completely unique. It's a lot of sand, but it doesn't feel like Tatooine. It feels like it should feel. Someplace that's thousands of years in the future, very, very far away. There is an understanding of human beings and their relationships and all of that, but there's a sort of ethereal spirituality to the movie that's conveyed in every single shot.
Yeah.
These people have evolved into something different than what we are. And that's like what sci-fi really does to you. Like when you're watching fantasy or sci-fi, it's like these are humans, but not in the way that we are human. And that's conveyed in in ways they're more primitive than we are, in ways they're more advanced. You're just having a different experience. And that happens scene to scene. Like you're on Arrakis, you understand Arrakis. As soon as you start to understand Arrakis, you go to the Harkonnens planet, which is this just destructive grayscale, it's terrifying, horror-filled dungeon of a world with like things popping, and it's an assault on your senses, but it's a very intimate one. I loved it. I agree with everything that you say. I also think that the feeling that you get is in terms of the movie-going experience is when someone takes a big idea and goes through it with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah. And builds a world. Like, Denny, like, you see a lot of sci-fi where, like, they didn't think about this world enough. Mm-hmm. And every single part, like, even when they go to the Harkonnen planet, their fireworks, when they explode, are like ink blots.
They're ink blots.
And I was just like, oh, shit. I was like, you're seeing something. I'm like, I haven't seen this on screen before.
Every part of their world is infected by the excess and the gluttony and how much they've extracted from it. They're so ravenous that there's nothing left on their planet. They've actually pulled all of the color out of it, all of the meaning out of it, which is the opposite of what Arrakis is. Arrakis is a place with a group of people that are actually trying to fight to stop from themselves from becoming what the Harkonnen world is. The spice colors the surface of their planet, but it also gives it meaning. And they're trying to stop that. And so, like, you're buttressing what they are with what they don't want to become. And that's like literally what they're fighting against. Something else I'll say is like, we love the Marvel movies and we love all of that stuff, and I'm not going to stop loving them. Like, my experience with Dune or any movie that achieves new heights is not going to stop me from loving that stuff. But the interesting thing about those movies is that they're able to do surgery with like a meat cleaver.
Yeah.
Because they have to. The movies are so big, like the MCU is so big, you can't cut it with a scalpel. You have to take it apart with a meat cleaver, but they're able to do it in a fine enough way that leaves you with details that matter and characters that matter. They're able to say, okay, we got to hack this stuff up, but we're going to do it in a very artful way. This movie is all scalpel.
Yeah.
It's like a big thing, but it's about ticks and movements and subtle looks and little shots.
It's surgical. Every shot is surgical.
Everything is surgical. And that makes you feel like they cared about the story that they were telling. And that's to me what comes through when you're watching the film.
It feels like this movie, from like a cultural standpoint, is bigger than the moment that it's given. And I'm saying that because back when the first Dune came out, this launched day and date with HBO Max. Nobody really got to see this in the theater. This was something that was like a flagship launch for a streaming service. And I think the impact of that story and that like bigness that the movie demands is lost. When we come to Dune 2 and we go to the biggest screen possible and we get to see a movie like this that is so intent with what it's going to show us and how its scope is going to be overwhelming, it feels like a crime that this isn't going to be a bigger cultural event. Maybe it will in time, but like this feels like it should be bigger than it is, because I was absolutely gobsmacked at almost everything on the frame at every single time. Things that you just don't see anymore. Like laser beams that'll cut gigantic H.R. Geiger ships in half, and people riding sandworms, like all of these things that you've never actually seen before. Like you forget what a blockbuster is supposed to be and how rare it actually is. This does that at every turn. And there are things to, there are nicks to pick. There are like small things that we can like examine, but like as an experience, as an entire picture, this is absolutely incredible.
Can I ask you all this also? Because like I've seen like now, you see all the critics seeing it. Now, you know, the normies are seeing it. And one thing I keep seeing kind of people share is this is probably one of the first movies where I feel like this young Hollywood gets to be iconic. And that's not me saying like, yeah, like Austin Butler gets to be Elvis, all this stuff. But I'm talking about blockbuster cinema when Timothy goes north to the Fremen and you see him descend into evil when he's like silence to one of the like mothers and he starts like doing the acting. I'm like, oh, Timothy's always been a great actor. He's been in a lot of award-winning films. But this is the first time I feel like I've seen him do the movie star thing, where it's like you see him that big on screen. Same thing with Zendaya. You're like, Zendaya's been in the Spider-Man movies. She's been in a lot of big shit. She's been in Euphoria. But this was the first time I felt like her and Austin Butler, I'm like, oh no, you're giving me the stuff that like Will Smith or Tom Cruise or all these other actors used to give me, where I'm just like, oh, they're bigger than life. And the screen and the stories are making them feel that way. Is that, am I going too far?
No, I think there's a moment here that people are actually missing about this in from a larger context. Like movie stars are being made this year. Like movie stars are being made in the time that we're in. Like Glenn Powell, Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah.
The whole Anybody But You situation. This movie, the MCU and other comic book movies and the tethering to these big characters who we've been with since we were children. Obviously, you guys know, not breaking any new ground here intellectually, that puts a cap on how the actor can transcend in that role. You can't be bigger than Captain America. You can't really be bigger than Thor or Iron Man. Especially once those characters are established, because you know maybe you could argue they were B-C characters before that. Can't be bigger than Spider-Man. You are Spider-Man. Like it's in this situation, it's not Timothy Chalamet is Paul Atreides. It's Paul Atreides is Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
And in the other case, it's going to be that Tom Holland is Spider-Man. Spider-Man will never be Tom Holland. It's just the way that it goes, right? So they have the opportunity to do this because we're seeing parts of them that are unexpected that we didn't see, right? And that's what the role demands. It demands us to go someplace that we had never gone before. And that's the only way to make a movie star. The only way to make a movie star is for you to look and go, wow, there has to be some wonder to it. There has to be some, oh my God, I can't take my eye off this person. There has to be some, oh my God, look at what they just did. That type of mystery, intrigue, mysteriousness, like, that's what makes a movie star.
Playing against type, seeing Austin Butler do this.
Right.
You're like, oh.
Oh, shit, okay, well, that's what makes a movie star, and that's what's changed. Something I'll say about what you were saying, Steve, I think is very interesting. And that's why I think the comparisons to The Empire Strikes Back are interesting. Dune is too weird to be the cultural moment that it should be. It's just too weird.
Dune's been historically weird.
It's the fact that this movie is so successful in what it does is it's just a breathtaking achievement. Mm-hmm. This is not a highly accessible movie.
Not at all.
But it's just not, bro. This nigga is the Messiah to 3 different motherfuckers.
Right.
We normally give one Messiah. He's a Fremen Messiah. He's the Bene Gesserit Messiah. Everywhere he goes, oh, Paul. And I know people that have called me up and they've been like, bro, can you tell me, like, who he's supposed to be? They call him by 3 or 4 different names.
Really is the Messiah because the Bene Gesserit are like making it up. So you're like, is he actually the Messiah?
He's not. No, but we're in order to actually litigate the necessity of messiahs, the usefulness of messiahs,
the political ramifications of messiahs.
They have to come at it through so many different angles that you have to be on your shit. It's not use the Force, Luke. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit more. It's just a little bit more complicated.
It's use Luke and the idea of the Force to make the idea of heroes possible for like, running a play.
I personally think the movie's going to do great business this weekend. I think it's going to be as big as it possibly can be. But Dune is very weird.
But I think the miracle that both the first one and the second one and what Denny and co have achieved is the idea that, like, a guy that rides desert worms and drinks the juice
water of life. What's it called?
Water of life, which is basically extracted from baby worms, and he can see through time. And his mom has a super baby inside of her.
See, that's
making
the weird
all of
part.
that kind of like making that like, hey, do you want to go see that this weekend? Yeah, and it's going to be the biggest movie this year.
That's the weird. See, riding mythical creatures, I've seen it. Danny Rides the Dragon, all of that stuff. Right. But when you start talking to the baby in utero and all of that stuff, that's the part where a lot of people I know that have seen the movie has been like, all right, man. Like,
but like,
by the way, I'm not saying that ruins the movie in any way. But what I'm saying is, it's a very the book itself is ambitious, incredibly ambitious. The movie is ambitious, and that might be the reason why you don't see a whole generation of kids going, "I want to be Paul Atreides," or like you don't see a bunch of. Or you see the kids not dressing up as Harkonnens for Halloween.
I don't think little girls are gonna be like, I want to be Chani when I grow up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.